Ram Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Giridhari Radha, Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Nitai Chaitanya Chandra Nitai Chaitanya Chandra Gaura Hari. Jaya Nitai Gaura Chandra Nitai Gaura Chandra Gaura Hari. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Nitya Leela Pravishto Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Stotra Sata. His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Iskcon Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki. Iskcon BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki. Jayam Nitya Leela Pravishto Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Astotra Sata. Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की श्री रूप श्री सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ सदगोसाई प्रभु की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम शिखोर श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की मायापुर नवदीप धाम की गंगा मैया की यमुना देवी की भक्ति देवी की तुलसी देवी की हरिनाम संकीर्तन की परम विजयते श्री कृष्ण संकीर्तन की निताई गौर प्रेमानंदी। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories, all glories.
Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parirajikacharya Ashto Tarashata Shri Mad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parirajikacharya Ashto Tarashata Shri Mad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Gauri Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Ho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Maya Purnavati Dham Ki Jai. Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glorious to assembled devotees. All glorious to assembled devotees. All glorious to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayat Shinvata Sakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantosta Yabhadrani Vidunoti Surit Satam Nashtaprayasya Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 30, Text 35. Yatredyante katamarishtas Trishnaya prashamo yataha Nirvairam yatra bhuteshu No dvego yatra kaschana Yatredyante katamrishtas Trishnaya prashamo yataha Nirvairam yatra bhuteshu No dvego yatra kaschana. Yatra, where, idyante, are worshipped or discussed. Kataha, words. Rishtaha, pure. Trishnayaha, of material hankerings. Prashamaha, satisfaction. Yataha, by which. Nirvairam, non-enviousness. Yatra, where. Bhuteshu, among living entities. Na, not. Udvegaha, fear. Yatra, where. Kashchana, any. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. By Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Whenever pure topics of the transcendental world are discussed, the members of the audience forget all kinds of material hankerings, at least for the time being. Not only that, but they are no longer envious of one another, nor do they suffer from anxiety or fear. Let's hear the translation again. Whenever pure topics of the transcendental world are discussed, the members of the audience forget all kinds of material hankerings, at least for the time being. Not only that, but they are no longer envious of one another, nor do they suffer from anxiety or fear. Purport. Vaikuntha means without anxiety, and the material world means full of anxiety. As stated by Prahlad Maharaj, Sada samudvigna diyam asadgrahat. The living entities who have accepted this material world as a residence are full of anxiety. A place immediately becomes Vaikuntha whenever the holy topics of the personality of Godhead are discussed by pure devotees. This is the process of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnaho, chanting and hearing about the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. As the Supreme Lord himself confirms, Naham tishtami vaikunte yoginam hridayeshuva tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti madbhakta. My dear Narada, actually, I do not reside in my abode, Vaikuntha, nor do I reside within the hearts of the yogis, but I reside in that place where my pure devotees chant my holy name and discuss my form, pastimes, and qualities. Because of the presence of the Lord in the form of the transcendental vibration, the Vaikuntha atmosphere is evoked. This atmosphere is without fear and anxiety. One living entity does not fear another. By hearing the holy names and glories of the Lord, a person executes pious activities. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha. Bhagavatam 1.2.17. Thus his material hankerings immediately stop. This Sankirtan movement, started by the Society for Krishna Consciousness, is meant for creating Vaikuntha, the transcendental world that is without anxiety, even in this material world. The method is the propagation of the Shravanam Kirtanam process throughout the world. In the material world, everyone is envious of his fellow man. Animalistic envy exists in human society as long as there is no performance of Sankirtan Yajna, the chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The Prachetas therefore decided to remain always in the society of devotees, and they considered that to be the highest benediction possible in human life. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Jakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakapa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, today reading from 4th canto, and this is a section of the 4th canto where Narada Muni meets the Prachetas, and the Prachetas are devotees of Krishna, and oh, wait a minute, that's in the next chapter. Sorry, scratch that. This is where the Prachetas are getting darshan of the Lord. So they chant anyways, early in the 4th canto, Lord Shiva teaches them a prayer, a song by which to worship the Lord. And then they do that for like a really long time underwater. And then they get darshan of the Lord. And so then the Lord speaks to them. Now this is them praying to the Lord. He says, take a benediction. And so I'm just going to read a verse or two in front and behind this verse. So the Lord asks, please take a benediction. And they keep saying, well, what kind of benediction do we need now that we see you? Like that. But then this is some of the verses that they say. They say, this is text 33, Dear Lord, as long as we have to remain within this material world due to our material contamination and wander from one type of body to another and from one planet to another, we pray that we may associate with those who are engaged in discussing your pastimes. We pray for this benediction, life after life, in different bodily forms and on different planets. So they are praying for what? Association, okay. With devotees, right. And specifically, the word for devotee here is translated as those who are engaged in discussing your pastimes. Okay. So 34 is, even a moment's association with a pure devotee cannot be compared to being transferred to heavenly planets, or even merging into the Brahman effulgence in complete liberation. For living entities who are destined to give up the body and die, association with pure devotees is the highest benediction. And then today's verse again, whenever pure topics of the transcendental world are discussed, the members of the audience forget all kinds of material hankerings, at least for the time being. Not only that, but they are no longer envious of one another, nor do they suffer from anxiety or fear. And then 36, the Supreme Lord Narayan is present among devotees who are engaged in hearing and chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Narayan is the ultimate goal of sannyasis, those in the renounced order of life, and Narayan is worshipped through this Sankirtan movement by those who are liberated from material contamination. Indeed, they recite the holy name again and again. So, they're asking for the association of devotees. And they back that up. The question might be asked, why are you asking for that? Good question. Yeah, this verse, exactly. Yeah, this is why. Because why? The pure devotees are discussing Krishna Katha, Shravanam Kirtanam. Thus, the Vaikuntha atmosphere is evoked, as Prabhupada says in the purport. Now we heard that verse, Naham Tishtami Vaikunte, Yoginam Hridyeshuva, Tatra Tishtami Narada, Yatra Gayanti Madbhakta. Krishna, where is Krishna? He's not in Vaikuntha, not in the hearts of the yogis. He's where his devotees are chanting and hearing his glories. So, the Prachetas, being very intelligent, decided that that would be the best benediction to ask, is to be with the devotees life after life, because then they can always hear about Krishna. And why is hearing about Krishna so good? Why is that desirable? Well, for one thing, one gets free from material hankerings, at least for the time one's doing that. So, material hankerings are the cause of suffering, along with all this other stuff, enviousness. Udvega means anxiety or distress. So yeah, what's the cause of anxiety or distress? The material body. And the material body is a product of envy, and also it's full of material hankerings. So, like in Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, we hear about the demoniac natures, and Krishna says something like, the persons with demoniac natures, they're entangled in a network of longings and desires, and therefore they're always in distress. So therefore, to be in longing and desires is actually it's not a pleasurable experience. It's mode of passion. The mode of passion has become the standard. Prabhupada says, mode of goodness used to be the standard of a civilized human society, but now mode of passion has become the highest standard possible. Mostly in the mode of ignorance, but hey, if you can reach mode of passion, then you're at the top. But mode of passion's indicative of a bunch of material enjoyment and desires and hankerings and opulences and, one longing after another, making money, getting this, getting that, and then it's never enough. So that's the state of suffering, actually. The Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, that's a state of suffering. Another thing that the mode of passion is indicative of is, as we hear here, material hankerings, sense enjoyment. What's that verse? In Bhagavad Gita 5:22, the verse is Yehi samsparsha ja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. So, Yehi samsparsha ja bhoga, that enjoyment, which is born, ja, from samsparsha, touching, contact with the material senses. When the senses contact the sense objects, that enjoyment, which is produced from that, Krishna says, dukkha yonaya evate, that's certainly the birthplace of misery. That's where misery is born. So, why? Because those have a beginning and an end, and the wise people don't, wise saintly persons, intelligent people, they don't take pleasure in that, actually. They don't go for that, because it has a beginning and an end, and thus one is ultimately dissatisfied and left hankering for more. So thus these material hankerings, always this trishna also means thirst. Has anyone ever been thirsty? I was thirsty yesterday, actually. I was on a long walk, and I was very thirsty. And I couldn't wait to get back and drink some water. And it's a state of suffering to be thirsty. So to have material desires is a state of suffering. But one can get free from material desires by hearing Krishna Katha, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. The Shravanam Kirtanam process is the panacea for our material ailments. So our material ailments, again, are not that we don't have enough money, is not that we're, not getting enough, material enjoyment. That's not material ailment. Material ailment is that we actually are entangled in longings for those things. And that's suffering. So, but those desires, that desire which is produced from our misidentification with the material world and body, can be completely mitigated by this process of hearing and chanting. So Prabhupada quotes the verse in the purport, Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna. We recite this before every Bhagavatam class. Because that verse says that, let's look it up. Read the exact translation. So Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Param Atma, supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So that text is extremely famous and important. It's in the second chapter of the Bhagavatam, a very important chapter, Divinity and Divine Service. And it's part of a string of verses which describe the process of bhakti yoga, essentially. The previous verses, Shushushro Shradanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahat Sevya Vipra Punya Tirtana Shevanat, which means that by rendering service to the Lord's devotees, one gets Vasudeva Kata Ruchi. One gets taste, Ruchi, for Vasudev Kata. Talks about Krishna. So association and service to the devotees, specifically to the pure devotees, is absolutely necessary to advance in devotional service. We must associate with devotees. Imperative. And we have to do so in a service attitude, because that service attitude awards the aspiring devotee the favor of those pure devotees. And thus those pure devotees being pleased, Krishna is pleased. And thus Krishna in the heart, vidunoti suhrit satam. Right? So that means what exactly? It means cleanses, he cleanses the heart. Hridyantasto hyabadrani vidunoti. He cleanses this abhadrani, like, Subhadra. Very auspicious. So abhadra means not auspicious. So there's a lot of inauspicious things in the heart. Anarthas, unwanted things. Lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, illusion. These things are extremely suffering. This is not a happy state of existence to have these things. So it's good if we can hold the mirror in front of our faces a little bit and just see, like, wow, I've got a lot of envy and lust and anger and greed and all that. Because then we can actually, feel inspired, feel a little motivated to take to this process of hearing and chanting in the association of devotees. So Krishna is purifying the heart of one who has that taste. That taste comes from where? The association of devotees who have that taste. And there's an example of this in the there's many examples of this. One of them, very prominent one, is in the first canto, Narada Muni, and his association with the Bhakti Vedantists. when they came to his mother's home during the Chaturmasya one year, and he was able to serve them. He was able to take their remnants. He was able to hear from them, actually, the pure topics about Krishna. So there's a verse in the 5th chapter of the 1st canto where Narada Muni is telling his disciple Vyasadeva, so we just heard the philosophy, the simple, those few verses in the 2nd chapter, maybe verses 14 through 21 perhaps, approximately. Those are kind of giving this is what happens. Associate with devotees, you get the taste for hearing, you hear and chant, your heart gets purified, do it more, mode of passion, mode of ignorance are finished, all your karma is cut to pieces, and you become eternally happy and fixed in transcendence. But the whole Bhagavatam elucidates and expands on that process of bhakti. Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai. So we hear Narada Muni telling Vyasadeva this actual example from his life about this process. So this is text 26 of the chapter 5 of Canto 1. O Vyasadeva, in that association, and by the mercy of those great Vedantists, I could hear them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna, and thus listening attentively, my taste for hearing of the personality of Godhead increased at every step. So that's exactly what we're talking about here, is that associating with the devotees, you're going to hear about Krishna. Because why? The devotees don't talk anything else but Krishna. Devotees talk about Krishna. And so by hearing about Krishna, which are described as attractive topics, and thus listening attentively, that's also the key. Listening attentively. That's not easy, because this material body is something else. Material body and the mind. But if we listen attentively to those attractive topics of the personality of Godhead, then what will happen? My taste will increase. I want more. And thus we'll want more, hear more, and hear more, and hear more. And then you can't give it up. So the purport talks more about this, but for brevity's sake. So this is important. One of the other references I was thinking of is in the Bhagavad Gita. Because let's think about this. We're aspiring devotees. Some of you are devotees. Most of you. I'm not a devotee, really. I'm trying to be. But we're aspiring devotees, and we do service. We come to the temple. We do service. We do things. One might say, can one gain Krishna consciousness through some other activity? What is the Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. Why don't I just remember Krishna? Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Dasyam, Archanam, Vandanam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. Why can't we do one of the other processes? Actually, the Shastra says we can. Just by doing one of those processes, one can attain perfection. The thing is that all those processes are actually pervaded by Shravanam, Kirtanam. Every one of the processes, if you take any of them, they're pervaded by Shravanam, Kirtanam. Take deity worship, for instance. You're constantly chanting mula mantras and prayers, and you're hearing shlokas and different stutis from Shastra. It's part of the process. Hearing, a lot of the time we hear a lecture from Prabhupada or something on the altar. Usually we're chanting, So it's pervaded by hearing and chanting. Dasyam, let's say why can't we come to the temple and just do service, and that'll purify us? The thing is that when we are doing service, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to hear and chant about Krishna. Not talk prajalpa. You're cooking for Krishna. You're doing service for Krishna, but then what's the consciousness? What's the consciousness? We're just thinking of our, kids or something, or school or work, or, it's like, okay, fine. But what about Krishna? What about Krishna? So let's hear and chant about Krishna. That's what devotees do. And so when we come to the temple and do any of the 9 angas, then what should accompany that is hearing and chanting. That's just natural when we're in the association of devotees. So devotees hear and chant about Krishna. And in the Bhagavad Gita 10:9, there's another verse, Mach chitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kattayanta shamam nityam tushanti cha ramanti cha. So Krishna is saying, my devotees are always absorbed in thoughts of me. Their minds and talks always are dwell in me. They're always talking about me. They're enlightening one another about me. And that brings them satisfaction and pleasure. They're always doing that. Nityam, that's the point. Nityam. It's not that we do it for a little bit of time. I mean, we have to start somewhere. We have to start, we're in Vaidhi Bhakti, regulative devotion service, so start somewhere. But Nityam's the ideal. Nityam's the ideal. And thus, devotees spiritualize their entire lives. So instead of listening to some like crazy, pop music or something, we hear kirtan. Instead of listening to some NPR or, some mundane PBS show, what do? We hear a lecture from a pure devotee. We hear some Krishna Katha. And we put pictures of Krishna in the home, right? So we see a picture of Krishna, you go, Krishna. You say Krishna's name. That's nice. That's good. You come to the temple, you see devotees, Hare Krishna. You're chanting Krishna's name. All the processes are pervaded by the Shravanam Kirtanam because that's what devotees do. In fact, there's an interesting purport, and I wish I would have looked it up before, but I just remembered now. There's a very interesting purport in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita where the Vishnu Dutas are speaking. And it's a very long purport. It's all about the difference between kirtan and smaranam. I can only paraphrase it so much because I only read it once, but it's pretty astounding, and there's a lot of Shastric references and pramanam in the purport by Sanatana Goswami and Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu that support the argument of the Vishnu Dutas, the residents of Vaikuntha, that Shravanam Kirtanam is a better process than Smaranam because Smaranam automatically accompanies the Shravana Kirtanam process, and it's easier. So it's not, we say, hey, Kali Yuga, this is the process for us, as if it's like lower, but no, actually it's just it's the highest process. So it's like if you're really sick, you get the best medicine, right? Like if you got some pain, you might get like a Tylenol, some cheap medicine. But if you're really sick, you're gonna be given like some morphine, right? Isn't it? You get the higher stuff. So we're really sick in Kali Yuga, so we get the highest thing, the chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam process. So it's really easy. You just associate with devotees, hear and chant with them. And in this, actually I wanted to mention, in the purport of Bhagavad Gita 10.9, Prabhupada talks about this process, which is talked about in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Madhya Lila chapter 19. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions to Rupa Goswami. He talks about the garden, the bhakti creeper, right? Bhakti lata. And that, like text 151 is the famous one about the bhakti lata bij, how the guru and Krishna gives one the seed of devotional service. But then if you read the next maybe 8 verses, it talks about, the metaphor continues, and how does that grow? How does that seed grow? I mean, how does a seed grow in general? Water and nutrition and stuff. So basically that watering process is described by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Shravanam Kirtanam, Shravanadi Jal. So that jal, that water of Shravana. So, and he says how you grow that creeper more and more and more until it grows actually through the 7 coverings of the universe. through the Brahmajyoti, past the Viraja River, through all the spiritual sky, all the way to Goloka Vrindavan. And that creeper finds shelter at Krishna's lotus feet. And there it starts blooming and producing fruits. And when those fruits become produced and ripened, then the devotee tastes that fruit. And that fruit is prema, love of God, and Krishna's direct transcendental loving service. And then Mahaprabhu says, now let's see if I can find this quickly, because this is quite astounding, what he says. He says, okay, the creeper greatly expands in the Goloka Vrindavan planet, and there it produces the fruit of love for Krishna. Although remaining in the material world, the gardener regularly sprinkles the creeper with the water of hearing and chanting. So this is a devotee who already has prema. What do? They regularly hear and chant. Because it's addicting. It's completely addictive. That's stated a few different times. In the very first chapter of the Bhagavatam, the sages of Naimisharanya tell Sutta Goswami that this is addictive. Tell us more. We want to hear about Krishna and Balaram and their human-like activities. Because we're addicted, essentially. And they say, actually, you can't get satisfied. The funny thing is, we're talking about this material, the material hankerings being satisfied in this verse. Trishnaya prashamo. Huh? Yeah, the satisfaction of the material hankerings. But when you have spiritual hankerings, no matter what you do, they're never satisfied. And that's actually ecstatic. That's actually that's not miserable, because when we have unfulfilled desires materially, we're miserable. But when we have spiritual desires that get fulfilled, but then they keep expanding, therefore they're never fulfilled, it's actually utterly ecstatic. And where does Arjuna say it? He says it in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, actually. He says it in verse 19 maybe, or 18 rather. Yeah, he says, okay, O Janardhan, again, please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulences. I am never satiated in hearing about you. For the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words. So this is, I'm going on a rant here, but in Chaitanya Charitamrita, with the discussion with Ramananda Roy, when the topic of spontaneous devotional service comes up, greed is said to be the only price, lalyam, for Raganuga Bhakti, spontaneous loving devotion, where we're not having to force ourselves. We actually just fall in love with Krishna. Greed, you actually have to want Krishna. That's the price. So this greed is actually produced. Actually, it cannot not. How do I say? It's impossible otherwise. Only through Shravanam Kirtanam, with devotees. It's the only way, because that as we're hearing from Arjuna, as we're hearing from Prabhupada, as we're hearing from Narada Muni, we're hearing from throughout the Shastra now that by associating with devotees, we get infected with that taste for hearing and chanting. And when we hear and chant, we want to do it more. That taste develops more and more. And even when you have prema, you just keep doing it more and more. And so, bringing it full circle now to the purport, Prabhupada says, this Sankirtan movement started by the Society for Krishna Consciousness is meant for creating Vaikuntha, the transcendental world that is without anxiety, even in this material world. The method is the propagation of the Shravanam Kirtanam process throughout the world. So, the world really needs it. Animalistic envy is what Prabhupada is saying. Animalistic envy. And the only way to really get free from that is this hearing and chanting process. One actually has to get free from their own self-centeredness. Get free from our own absorption in who we think we are. We're not even absorbed in who we are. We're just absorbed in who we think we are. So we have to get free from that. And the best way to get free from that is to be in contact, be in touch with something that's more attractive than our own crazy problems and troubles and hankerings and desires in life. We need to come in contact with something even better. So like people go to movies, for instance, to get out of their own world. Like it's so needed. If people just are in their own world, in their own minds, suffering their desires, their lamentations, we go insane. People commit suicide. There's so many things that happen. Drug abuse. There's so many, because people can't stand being in their own heads because we're not meant to be. We're meant to be, Krishna's meant to be in the middle. So people don't know about Krishna, therefore they're doing all sorts of illicit activities, illicit sex, intoxication. These things really take one out of their own head, and because it's so materially absorbing these things, so one is absorbed in those, but those are very degrading. Go to a movie, that's kind of innocent, but it's also just mundane. So people are trying to get out of the center, actually. That's the interesting truth, is it's not a natural position. We want to be in the center, but it's miserable, so we're trying to get out of it. We can't have both. And the only way to be satisfied is to actually put Krishna in the center of our lives. And that is attractive. That we can hear about. We can hear about Krishna. We can't really hear about someone else's problems for so long. I mean, we can try, but after some time it gets boring. And then we put ourselves back in the center. But Krishna, we can actually do it. We can actually do it by the mercy of the devotees. That's the only real way. We can't do it ourselves, but it can be done. It can be done. And that's the goal of life. And that goal of life is meant to be shared with everyone all over the planet, all over the universe. We have to do that. Because if we actually can experience this ourselves, if we can actually experience what this verse is saying, this freedom from material hankerings, this freedom from envy, this freedom from fear and anxiety, we will automatically feel obliged and great compassion to give it to others. What's that verse in the Bhagavad Gita? Atma pamyama sarvatra. Anyone know it? Samam pashati yorjuna. Ita dukkha va yadiva dukkam. Something like that. Yeah, sorry, I butchered that verse, but it's like 631, 630, something like that in the Bhagavad Gita. And this is Krishna saying to Arjuna that the greatest yogi is one who can actually experience the happiness and distress of others. And in the purport, Prabhupada doesn't just talk about mundane empathy. There's a lot of life coaching and communication workshops which you can attend and pay thousands and thousands of dollars to learn how to be a mundane person and compassionate and empathize with people. It's good skills, actually, for devotees to have. It's a good skill. But we need to take that beyond just one's own mental problems. We need to take that to the soul, and the soul is suffering because they're not Krishna conscious. That's what Prabhupada says in the purport. And so a devotee actually feels compassion for everyone because he knows what real suffering is. When we're falling asleep during chanting, at least myself, I'm falling asleep during chanting, and then I know what that is. I know that suffering. My neck's breaking. I don't know where I'm at. I'm completely not Krishna. I'm so absorbed in the mode of ignorance from falling asleep. No taste for Krishna consciousness. I know that I know how much suffering that is. So when I see someone else doing that, I can relate. I go, wow, that must be tough. I know what that's like. So similarly, when we get a taste for this process of Shravanam Kirtanam, and we see other people trying to gratify their material senses, feeling envy, fear, anxiety, then we should feel compassion and try to give them the medicine, which is this Krishna Katha and the association of devotees. Those are inextricably connected, and yeah, that's it. Thanks. Any comments or questions, reflections? Damodar Sharan Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you for being a great example for all of us to follow by your humility and the service you do for the community. Thank you so much. It's a question and a comment. Basically, thanks for emphasizing the importance of Shravanam Kirtanam. I was thinking about book distribution also is connected to Krishna. And sometimes, personally, I've seen devotees also get carried away and, sort of include some of sales techniques to give the books, which I think is okay to some extent. But what
sales techniques? You said.
sales.
Okay.
So that is also an activity connected to Krishna. So when you do a book distribution, how would you, when you go out in book distribution, how do you connect Krishna in that activity? When you speak to people, you meet various kind of people, and sometimes you have to talk to them about certain things which may not be required. Like so many things we do in addition.
Mundane things.
But I know it's a very one of the most difficult service doing book distribution. Which we think might be easy just to give the books, but to talk to people and be in that consciousness of thinking about Krishna and talking about Krishna is where I feel a little lacking. So if you could please elaborate on that.
Well, book distribution is certainly it's absolute bliss, but at the same time, I was telling Doug, we were talking yesterday. Every single day, I've gone on books so many times, but every single day I feel anxiety about going out. I don't want to go. I'd rather sit and read something. But every day I feel this anxiety that I feel nervous, and it's difficult. That's why my Guru Maharaj says, hitting success is if you just hit the pavement. If you just make it out there, then automatically something will happen. And so, with considering your question, the main thing is that we want to get people the book, or we want to give people mercy. So there's different forms of mercy that we can give them. I mean, the three main ones are the holy name, prasadam, and the book. So we want them to accept at least one of these three. So we we don't necessarily preach the glories of the holy name, and by holy name we mean Krishna consciousness, bhakti, yoga, and the process in general, to the faithless. Like if I tell someone that this is all about surrendering to God, they might not accept it. In fact, most people won't. They might say, no, thank you, see ya. Because that's what the material world is here for, is people who don't want to surrender to God. That's the population we're dealing with in the material world. So, and also there's a verse in the third canto between Maitreya and Vidura. One of them says that the living entities are averse to their subordination to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shri Radha Nila Madhava Ki Jai. And so that's what we're hearing in this verse about envy. People think, why are people atheistic? Why are people against God? Because it means that they have to admit that there's someone better than them. The false ego can't handle that. So I don't come out with it right off the bat. I usually just briefly talk to the person and feel their, like if, for instance, if they're Christian or religious already, then I'll start talking about God. I'll say, we call God Krishna. But the main thing, is that Prabhupada said that what is your 3 minutes of preaching going to do? Better that they get a book, and that'll be with them. There's a letter, actually, to this. Exactly, I'm saying it verbatim. Prabhupada said, what is your 3 minutes of preaching going to do? It's useless. These people they have no sukriti. Krishna says one should not, preach this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to those who are, faithless, and with those who are, where does he say it? This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. So then we might say, well, then just don't preach. Everyone fits in that category. But that's why we get donations, actually. It's not that we need the money. That's the thing, actually. We don't need money. Krishna's got all the money in the world, and, that's not the concern. But we do it because if they give to Krishna, then it's for their benefit. I spoke with one Indian gentleman downtown one time, and he said he didn't want to get a book. So I said, well, can you just give a donation? And he said, I don't want to give you, I'm not giving you a donation. He was kind of rude. And I said, no, it's not for me, it's for Krishna. No, he's Indian, he was Hindu. And he said, well, Krishna doesn't need my money either, he's Krishna. And I said, kind of fire, I said, Krishna doesn't need your money, but you need to give to Krishna. And so then he gave some money. So that's the point, is Krishna doesn't need it, I don't need it, but we need to give to Krishna. So if they give to Krishna, then Krishna sees that, and that's Sukriti, and then therefore that's an austerity. Look, they're working so hard for money, and then if they give some of that up for Krishna, then they're austere, they qualify. We can actually give this confidential knowledge to them. But it depends, so this is degrees, it's a gradation. How austere, how devoted are they? Do they even know what they were doing? Has this bhakti agata sukriti fructified yet to the point where they can accept Krishna Katha? Or let's just engage them in more. So I tell them, I don't lie, I don't tell them whatever, that we're trying to feed children in Bangladesh. I don't say that, but I say, this is the supreme yoga teachings. This is talking about all the different types of yoga and meditation. It talks about how to control your mind, how to get free from stress. It's all true. And for people who are more sincere and more ready to hear it, I go deeper and say that the supreme yoga is bhakti, love and devotion to God. But nevertheless, I usually keep it quite short and just try to give them the book, get the donation, and then get them to chant the mantra, give them a card teaching the mantra, give them a piece of the prasadam, peanut butter burfi, and invite them to the temple. That's the best thing we can do. And if we can do that to as many people as possible, then we're actually elevating the consciousness of the world. And so I also was a little self-conscious about this because, the offense, we should not, interpret the name, holy name in a mundane way. Sometimes I say this is just a, spiritual sound vibration, which is true, but I thought, it's not, it's the holy name of Krishna. Like it's even better than that. We were discussing this. And also, I was thinking in Gaura Leela, Mukunda got banished from Mahaprabhu's association because of, Mahaprabhu said, when you're with this group of people, you talk like them. When you're with this group of people, you talk like them. So I was really considering, is that what I'm doing? But then I spoke with some senior devotees, and they quoted some of the things that I just quoted and said, no, Prabhupada wanted the books out. That's the main preaching. And so we don't lie, we don't say falsities, but we don't have to say all of the truth. Is that okay? Does that help? Thank you, Prabhu. Anything else? Vishal, Prabhu. Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you. You gave a class recently when you said that, I think it's from TLC, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. You said that to lose the association with devotees is like, I'd rather be locked in a room full of fire.
Oh yeah, that's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also.
Right, so I'd rather be locked in a room full of fire than lose the association with devotees. So devotee association is very important, like you mentioned in class today. We need this, it's essential. And so how do we, we're like one big family, right? And we gotta get along. But I see there's different brain matters here, different brain substances. You may have a different personality, I may have a different personality. But here's my thing, Raki. I notice that people fight, people get angry at each other or they fight, it's based on their own senses. If we put Krishna in the center, which he is anyway, but if we understand that fact, then there'll be no more fighting. I've seen devotees fight over things because their senses weren't satisfied, or you took my prasad, or it's all about eating and sleeping arrangements, pretty much what it is. Eating and sleeping. So if we can just minimize eating and sleeping, please reduce it as much as possible. And let's all go out on Harinam. The whole temple should go out one time. Once a month, I'm begging everybody, please, come out with us. Once a month. Please, once a month. Please, please, please. Just join us and, experience the ecstasy. We have this, Shamsundar Prabhu is very wonderful, amazing person. He did this, Sunday, Mangalarti. I missed it again, because I'm stupid, but, this is very nice to come in the morning, at 4:30. It's very wonderful. And then what we should do is, after coming to Mangalati at 4:30 and then going through the whole program, we should be so enthused we want to go outside and share this with other people. We should think, wow, I'm so happy. I got to share this with other people. People are rotting in the world. We're going to share it. So,
So your point's well taken. Now, if we do this, this is what this verse is talking about, actually, Shravanam Kirtanam. If we actually hear the pure topics of the transcendental world together, then we get free from these material hankerings. All these little issues are like straws on the street. They're nothing. But they seem so grand when we're not hearing and chanting properly. So that's the point, is devotee association means hearing and chanting. Otherwise, it's just my false egos either enjoying, being neutral, or fighting with your false ego. Even in devotee circles, that happens. So that's why the Shravanam Kirtanam is important. At breakfast, what do we talk about? Just something mundane? No, Krishna conscious stuff. And therefore there won't be fights. And even if there are fights, then it's at a higher level. It's not. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vrindavan Das Thakur says one should not take sides when two devotees are fighting. We can't understand the movements of Vaishnavas. And also from Gaura Leela, what did the Mahaprabhu and his associates do? At Srivas Angam, they churned the nectar. They churned, they chanted and they heard and chanted. They did kirtan for a year, all night and all day for a year, until they brought it out to the streets. You all know that? That's true. So they churned it and they made it condensed. They condensed the milk more and more and more until it was burfi, and then when it was nice and sweet, then they distributed it. So we got to condense it a little bit. I think it's right that you say that, yes, every devotee should be going out on the streets and hearing and chanting. And of course that would be a desirable thing to do. But before that, if we're fighting over a pakora, can we really go on the streets together and face that out there? So first off, let's do the Shravanam Kirtanam together and churn the nectar, condense the milk, and feel the bliss ourselves. And then we can actually distribute, as you say, the overflow. That's what we do, is distribute the overflow. And we never stop the hearing and chanting process, as we heard today. Even if one has prema, you still hear and chant, because that's just what devotees do, and that's how we charge the battery. Sometimes you go to India, sometimes go to the Dham for Kartik or something on pilgrimage, and that recharges the battery. You do a lot of hearing and chanting there. You associate with pure devotees, and then you come back and you're supposed to distribute that. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.
All glories, all glories, all glories to His grace. Pranahari Das Brahmachari, Hari Hari Bol.